They were going to make me do one of them, one way or the other. Oh, hi! It says I'm live. Greetings and blessings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. And I continue to pray that each and every one of you will accept and receive the healings, the wisdom, and the gifts from the universe. Now, with that said, for the topic of this particular video, with Breaking Dawn and I sitting here having a discussion at almost 3 in the morning, and it was like, well, while we're kind of sort of hot on the topic, I'm just going to go ahead and create it and discuss it while we're at it. So anyway, welcome y'all. This is a midnight version of some topics in the strange, and so here's what the topic is about. Can nothing actually exist without something? Now, one could say, all right, now, Hawkeye, you really either not smoked enough or you smoked too much. But a little laughter from the peanut gallery over here, which is encouraged, by the way. But the idea, though, that can no thing actually exist in our realm of the universe? Because even in subatomic levels, things exist. Space is not a void; it's not empty. When I was a kid, they taught us in science and so forth that space was void and nothing could exist there. And now there are all these cosmic energies. There's radiation coming from the sun. There's cosmic stuff. We're getting bolts of energy coming from different galaxies and things and star clusters and so forth. And so the idea that in our reality, can nothing actually exist? Is there any state of being that there wouldn't be something there? And wouldn't you have to have something in order to not have anything? No thing, nothing. So now you say, well, Hawkeye, what in the hell does this matter in the grand scheme of things? It's because we have been taught and have been subjugated to the rule of words, so that space is void, that there's nothing there. When actually, can we stop and let's just ask ourselves, is there any state of being or reality where no thing would actually exist? Not an atom, not a thought, not a wavelength or a frequency, nothing. When we say no thing, that means nothing. When we use the term void, it means nothing's there. So, but when they use the word space, as in space travel, space this, blah, 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 and I'm going to do a separate video on the space, distance, time thing. But to bring it into this part of the equation, space has been given a numerical designation. In other words, the idea of space and how we have all been taught to conform to their science of hypocrisy, but actually it's their hypotheses that they discuss all the time. They theorize that this is how the universe works. And so they project it upon us that space is void of things when actually that ain't true. And so, but they still teach it, and that space has nothing in it. And I just have to ask the question. I got to be the grown up in the room and ask this simple question. In the state of reality, in the state of realism, in the state of the universe, is there ever a condition where nothing could exist? Is there any place in the universe, some little corner, some little spot Creator's got his own little, dark corner area or something where nothing could exist. And I hypothesize that because something exists in the rest of the universe, then there couldn't possibly be nothing someplace else. Then the universe, it would be like really out of balance. So there's always something there. So, for example, spirits exist. We have both been bumped by spirits before. I've been knocked down the stairs and damn near killed by them. But so we get a feeling of being bumped by a spirit, and we say, well, there's nothing there. Well, actually, there is something there. It's that it appears to our senses that nothing's there. When actually there is something there, we just can't perceive it in our dimension. But simply because we can't see it, we can't see X-rays, but they can show our bones up on a piece of film and show what our insides look like. So it's like we don't see those things, but they exist. So does that mean that nothing is there? No, those X-rays are there. There are so many particles and things and atoms in the universe. Is there any place in the universe that nothing could exist? Hi, Dominic. Yeah, I'm back. We're kind of having a, early morning roundabout table discussion of odd things in the universe. And it was just like, what the hell? Let me hit the, go live button here. But good to see you back, Dominic. But to the point, though, that and I'm kind of sort of on this vein of thought that so many things that they tell us, if we actually analyze the words that they use and the phrases, the words outer space is not correct. They're giving space an area. They're giving it a quantum name. They're using it as a something, when actually space is nothing more than the distance between objects. That's all. It's a word. But they have used space technology, space this, in reference to something. So the word space has a double meaning. So you have space in a closet, but that's not outer space. It's not the same, but it is, but it ain't. It's the word for the distance between things. That's going to be on a separate video. But this has to do with, can nothing exist? We have to stop and think about what they are trying to tell us. And this discussion is started because discussing space. That is space actually void? No, it's not, because there's all this stuff actually out there. We don't see it with our naked eye, but we use all these instruments, and oh my God, the universe is full of stuff. So is there any place in the universe where nothing can exist? Nada. And so when they talk about the void of space, that's wrong, because space isn't a void. Hi, Truth and Me. How are you? Favor to all. Blessings back to you, Truth and Me. And looking at the truth of things as it actually is, they're using words which confuse our brains. So the vast and the void of space, but space isn't void. It's full of stuff. So, and is there nothing out there? No, there's all kinds of things. So, but in the spiritual reality, and going back to like the third eye, well, actually, Breaking Dawn and I were talking about the third eye. Uh, we weren't, but I'm. This is a continuing conversation with Breaking Dawn that ended up being a video. She's laughing as she goes upstairs. But the idea, though, that so if you feel a spirit brush by you, does that spirit not exist in the realm of things? I've done several videos and showed you pictures of orbs and things, and we've all seen pictures and maybe seen things ourselves with orbs and stuff. So we say to ourselves, well, wait a minute, you know, I looked out there with my naked eye and nothing was there. But then I took my digital camera and I set up the flash rate just right, and I took pictures of something that was there. So although I'm looking out at the darkness that seems to be, I'm using these words on purpose, void of anything because it's dark and I can't see. So in my realm of thinking, I'm looking into the void of the darkness. But I turn on my camera, I change the parameters, click, flash. Now I've got pictures of orbs all around me and on the beach. I'm thinking of the last few video I did with entities on the Ochlockonee River, and so just in looking out at the darkness, there's nothing there. So you see where I'm going with this? I know it's a really abstract, quirky point of view about things, but in the reality of what we're being told by the scientists, by the media, and we hear these things all the time, but we got to take a step back as the observer, as I'm always yakking about, in that, listen, wait a minute, space isn't void because there's stuff out there. That means there's something there where they claim there's nothing. We got to back up about why are they calling things, well, outer space, inner space, and this and that. Wait a minute, is nothing actually there? Could nothing actually exist? And my subjective thought to this in the spiritual realm, it appears, that's the key word, it appears as though nothing is there. But when we open ourselves up spiritually, when we open our energies up, when we open up our third eye, what we may not see or cannot see with these two eyes, we can clearly see with our third eye and with our spirit being and on the astral. We can see these other things. Now, all of a sudden, something that appears to be nothing actually is a something. I know, kind of paradoxical. And it seems like I'm going around in circles. And in a way, I am, and it's intentional because these folk, all them folk who use these words and terminology, it's confusing us. They use these words out of context. And I'm going to do a separate video about the space and the distance and things, but it will really relate to, is there something there, or could there ever exist in the universe a time, a place where nothing could exist? And even before time, something had to exist, because otherwise, if nothing was there, how could something come about? So I think that space has been empty, not void, empty of things, and there has been a coalition and coagulation of forces and energies that have created the universe. But was there ever a time when nothing ever existed, where nothing was there? And if you believe in God, and as I've discussed, I believe in the creator and source. So the source energy has always been present. So the idea of there's nothing at all can't actually exist. It will appear to us that nothing is there. It's the appearance. It's our observer effect. We observe and perceive, we don't see anything, therefore we conclude that nothing is there, that it is void of whatever, you know, the only thing that's there is darkness. And that also includes inside of us. It includes our astral realm. It includes our mental health and our mental realm. It includes our third eye. Because if you say, well, there's nothing there, well, it's not true. There is something there. When we allow our perceptions to expand, when we stop and pick these little words apart and turn the universe back in on itself, because they have convoluted the word system to fit their vernacular. Okay, they use the words to fit their purpose. So space is devoid of stuff. Space, there's nothing, but yet there's all this stuff there that they keep finding. So is what are they trying to tell us? Or are they just trying to confuse the bejeebers out of us to keep us confused, to keep us from understanding, oh, holy crap, there really is something else out there. There's all this stuff, and you're showing it to us with the pictures of space and the different pictures of the sun with the different filters and the different angstroms and oh my God, there's stuff in the universe. Oh my goodness, space isn't a void. It is a vacuum, yes. But I can make a vacuum table on a laboratory here on Earth. So creating a vacuum ain't that big a deal. So is the vacuum of space? Well, wait a minute. Wait, hang on. The vacuum of space. Wait, we're giving space a quantity again. That stuff out there, the universe, is that space? Is that the something or the nothing? Well, I don't know. You don't see anything. You see the stars. There is something out there. But what about the stuff between? They call that the space. Between stuff. Oh, holy crap. Right? So, but in our thinking of this, does nothing exist? Again, something has always existed. Otherwise, the condition of nothing it doesn't balance out. Why is this important? Because as a spiritual being, as we all are, we need to go to these different levels and look at them and go, wait a minute. I know they're just words, but these words have power. Hey, Mary Wins, Delaney, how are you? Dominic, Truth and Love. Hey, yeah, I'm back. Hugs back to everybody. Truth in me, it's like being in a dark room with no light, but yet there is light in the darkness. Yes. And the thing is, though, that truth in me, simply because it's dark in the room doesn't mean it's dark everywhere. And the thing is that you could have a flashlight or your cell phone and create light. So, and because you're in the room, it's just a state of being at that particular time. It's darkness at that point, right? So, but yes, so how do I put this? Okay. There's many times, yeah, there's dust in my house. Everybody's got dust in their house. I think this stuff, dust grows on trees. They have little dust bunnies parties under the beds and things. Anyway, you can sit in front of this a sunlit window and sometimes see dust particles. Well, you don't see them unless the sunlight hits the particles just right. So at one point you go, well, wait a minute, there's nothing there. But then when the sunlight hits it, as a dark room, it illuminates a certain point, and all of a sudden you see dust particles in there, and you go, wait a minute, where did that come from? I didn't see that before. The sunlight hit the dust just right, and you could see it, and that's really cool, right? But at the same point, if the sunlight wasn't there and you look across the room, do you see the dust particles? They're still there, but it appears that nothing is there. It's devoid of dust, which we know ain't true. So, but the idea though that, and I agree with the dark room thing. Um, you know, our third eye is in darkness because we don't know how to turn on the light. We've forgotten. When we allow ourselves to understand, and I've done this experiment with darkness before, and I used to teach blind children and adults, and so one of the many things I learned to help open up my own third eye, because how do these blind people not run into things? They're using their third eye. They just don't know it because they can't see with these, but they can still see things. Most of the blind people I've spoken with and had the opportunity to work with can all perceive, see things, and they're using their third eye. They don't know how they're doing it, but they do. And that's the sixth sense. No, it's your third eye. Sixth sense is something else, but maybe your third eye is your seventh sense versus your psychic abilities. But anyway, in developing this, though, if we understand that something can exist, well, I don't know, I don't really have an eye up there, but no, your brain kind of perceives it. So what it is, then you can say, well, my third eye can see in the darkness. Wait a minute, what? So now I don't need light, even though the room is dark. To these eyes, it appears dark. In my third eye, it's not. It's like looking through night vision goggles in a way. What? So is there ever really darkness? One could hypothesize that. Thanks for bringing that up, Truth in Me. Is there ever really darkness? There's probably light somewhere. And from our third eye, with practice, you will be able to, quote, see in the darkness, like blind people do. They don't need to turn on the lights, but they can still see around to get around in their room. They still don't bump into stuff whether the lights are on or not. It may help their perception, but it's there. They can still perceive it with their third eye. So what does this have to do with anything? It has to do with, we have to understand these tiny little differences in things that we're subjected to, our thought patterns. And these people have programmed themselves by the misuse of the words they use. And so, I was a child of the 60s, born in 52. So, the space race and all this stuff, I was in it, right? Living in Florida, Cape Canaveral, just right across, not far away at all. So, it was a big deal for us in Florida, but I'm not quite sure about the rest of the planet, but, it was a big deal to us in Florida because this is going to go off right over there, a couple, on the other side of near Daytona, there's going to be a rocket ship, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. But the idea, though, that nothing or that darkness actually exist? And I would say that it is not void of light, but devoid of light, which is, one could argue, well, wait a minute, aren't you splitting hairs here? Yes, I am. But just because we can't see an X-ray doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So can there be different states of these other things? Absolutely. Can there be this fine line between them? Yes. That's the different stages of awareness. I was talking in a previous video tonight that got rather long, but it was fun to hang out with all y'all that were here earlier. But our perception of things. But these fine lines are rapture moments. When you stop and consider, wait a minute, I kind of get what he's talking about. What does it really mean? Well, if you are trying to understand the universe, That helps you to stay out of the box. They are creating these words and symbols and phrases that put us into this box of thinking. When we take their thinking and their words apart and stand back as the observer and go, wait a minute, there's something more in here that maybe even these idiots don't understand. They may not even know what they're blabbering on about. They may not know. They may not get it. Holy crap. Is that a spiritual awareness? Is that a rapture moment? Is that an aha moment? To me, it is, because we're looking at the universe differently. We're using our third eye. We're using our other senses. We're understanding, wait a minute, something, nothing. So the word nothing actually cannot exist, because there's no state in which something won't be there. But it's the appearance that nothing is there. So I can look out the window. The sun's not shining through. I don't see the dust particles. A light shines through the window. The dust appears. Whoa, it's magic. No, it's the appearance. It's how we perceive things. It's not that it doesn't exist or that nothing was there. You get what I know this is a sort of a kinky, crazy, convoluted, what the hell are you trying to do to my brain? I don't know. Let's is it 420 yet? It's 420 somewhere probably. But in order to understand spiritual awareness, you have to be able to break things down. And earlier we were having a discussion, Breaking Dawn and I, and the question keeps coming up in my brain: why do they call it that? Why do they name it that? Where did the name come up from? Where this idea of nothing, no thing, and Breaking Dawn brought it up. Can no thing? And I'm like, listen, there's no state of being where nothing could exist, or the idea. Wait a minute, could nothing exist in a reality if there's nothing? You know what I mean? It's convoluted and goes around. Programmed, right, Mary Wins. So from the outside, and I don't think, I actually don't think when they first started this, somebody had to give it a name and they came up with it. But over time, over space, the space of time, is it actually a space? Is there actually a space between the time, or is it the distance? Another video on that subject. I do want to keep them separated, but they are interlinked, because something always exists, even on the molecular, spiritual, we can't see it level. So the state of nothing is only an appearance. It's only our perception. Well, I looked out the window when it's dark, and I nothing was there. Okay, that's what you appeared. That's what appeared to you. But if I look out my window and there's nothing there, in reality, in the daylight, I'd see trees in the yard. I'd see grass on the ground. I'd see the cats laying out there and begging for more food in the middle of the night, saying, "Feed me, Dave. We need 10 meals a day." I mean, yeah, I would see these things. But it's the only difference is the state of being. One is there's light, and the other is there isn't. But the perception that nothing is there is a false statement. So, but we have allowed ourselves the perception that nothing is there, nothing is wrong, no thing is. You know what I mean? So we have to stop and in a way kind of criticize it, critique it. Are these guys that are folk? Because there's women involved too. Are these folk trying to confuse us? I mean, seriously now. Are these folk down here trying to confuse me, son? I mean, wait a minute now. Darkness isn't dark because it just doesn't have a light in it. Well, is it devoid? Now you've got me confused there, Hawkeye. Are you trying to confuse me? I'm trying to unconfuse us and say that there are different levels of awareness and understanding to this that they may not even be aware of. Isn't that interesting? So this, I'm going to rather keep this topic short because if I don't, it's going to go into one of the other topics I've got scheduled to do videos on. So if you think this is interesting, wait till I start talking about time, distance, space, and how this ties in together with the nothingness, which obviously cannot exist, could not exist. Um, it's only I know it keeps coming through. It's only the appearance of nothing. So can they fog our brain with electronic ways and make it appear that nothing is wrong? Can it appear that there's no, you know what I mean? And they're doing it. They're shucking and jiving us with these pictures. And if you look at the bottom, it'll say NASA simulated. Oh, here's this, you know, zucchini spaceship flying past Mars. The zucchini spaceship, get it? Anyway, um, long cylindrical. Anyway, Mars, Green Man. Never mind. That was a stretch, wasn't it? Um, the zucchini spaceship went to Mars to map it, right? But the zucchini wasn't ripe. I don't know. Anyway, and now I'm off on zucchinis and I can't get that off my brain. But anyway, um, at the bottom of all these things, it always says, artist simulation or NASA simulated, whatever, black hole, black hole programming. Now, is that what I like that the way you spelled it, whether truth in me it was on purpose or not. Do you spell whole with HOLE? Or do you spell it as whole as WHOLE as you spelled it? So is it a whole or is it the whole of dark? You know what I mean? I don't know whether you intended that or not, but see, that brings in another point of view. Which term of whole do you use? Well, I got a hole in my head. I got a few of them, but as a whole, I have holes in my head. Wait a minute, you just confused me some more. As a whole, I have holes in my head. Yeah, which hole do you use though? The whole hole, all of them. Yes, intended. Thank you very much. So, but so you're on the idea where I'm at. I'm reprogramming. Yeah, our perspective changes. Everything changes. Absolutely. And it goes obviously in a way, obviously observer, anyway. But so if we become the observer, things become more obvious to us. Holy crap. Wait, there is a distinction there. There is the whole of the whole. I've dug a hole before and it was the whole hole. You know what I'm saying? It was the whole hole, the whole damn thing, and had to fill it back in. But yeah, the program, Mary, yes. But to this idea though that in this wholeness of things, they use holes in their theory to present a wholeness picture of the dark holes of space. That's getting a little bit, but in the wholeness of it, in the whole picture, they're trying to create these things, and I'm trying to punch holes in it because it's some of their stuff is like, this really doesn't make sense. It's like, George Carlin, I loved him back in the day when he was the hippy dippy postman on Laugh-In. Very few people remember that, but I do. But, George Carlin, he talked about stuff, and perception of things. and what they want us to know and what we think we know and the whole picture, you know. So, you have to stop and look at it in terms of, wait a minute, maybe I maybe I need to almost look at some of these things from a comedic standpoint, because it's laughable sometimes. Something doesn't fit here. So as you were absolutely right, as the observer, and there's a whole gizmo stuff about the observer effect. So as we watch it and observe it, we affect it simply because we're watching it, et cetera, to not go into that discussion. But in the wholeness of it all, and the awareness of it all, we don't see anything, and there's nothing there, it appears, but simply because we observe something, we can affect it. So as the observer, we can be objective and look at something without becoming emotionally attached, which is our way of keeping our distance. We stay aware. We allow our beings to stay aware, but we're using that observer technique where we can. Sometimes there have been times when I literally pictured myself like looking through a window, like I've walked up to some place and there's an answer in there, and I walk up and I like pretend I'm wiping the window from fog or whatever, and I'm looking in, and the answer is inside the window. I know it's crazy, but there have been times when I've seen some really interesting things looking through the window, and I don't mean like a peeping Tom now. Don't get your minds out of the gutter. But in the true sense of that, wait a minute, there's something like, it's more like a classroom, like what? There's something written on the chalkboard, and I walk up, but I can't see it because there's dirt on the window. So I wipe it and say, oh, E equals MC squared equals bullshit. What? There's more to E equals MC squared. But anyway, moving on. Marie, how are you? Greetings, Truth and Me. Oh, yeah. And yes. And Marie, you as well. Donut holes, vortex. Our perspective, orbit. Yeah. And we were Breaking Dawn and I were discussing this earlier also, and now that you bring up vortex, might as well bring it up as well. And for example, there's this old saying with farmers and folks, all horses are animals, but not all animals are horses, period. Okay. So a vortex, this is one of those words that are being kind of sort of misused. A tornado is a vortex, all right? Any kind of whirling is a vortex. But not all vortexes are portals or holes in time and space. You can stir water up and create a whirlpool, which is a vortex, okay? But it doesn't necessarily mean it leads into another dimension or into another place, okay? So as a vortex, a portal or a black hole could also be a vortex into another dimension. But a tornado as a vortex is not necessarily a portal into another time. Follow me? So, and I'm thinking of little whirlpools in water, watching streams and the water go by, and there are little swirls and stuff. Those are little mini vortexes in the water, right? And when the water goes down the drain, it creates a vortex, and there's a pattern as it goes down the drain. So that vortex is not necessarily a portal to another dimension. But if you open up a portal to another dimension, you have created a vortex in the time and space, etc. So one can exist where the other could not, and not necessarily both at the same time. All horses are animals, but not all animals are horses. So you have to stop and think, well, wait a minute, is one as true as the other? Ask that weird question, why? Why do they do that? Why would they misuse terminology? Why is space used in this respect? Why is, why would they use this terminology when that's not necessarily true? Talking about space is empty, void, blah, blah, blah. But to the point, though, the idea that no thing can exist, that, um, space is void of things. Well, I think they're void of a few um, thoughts between their ears, if you will, um, because they're obviously haven't really, in my opinion, these. And I've sat down with some physicists, by the way, too, and had discussions, and they go, "Where do you?" What they look at me and they go, "Dave, where the hell do you come up with these ideas?" And I'm like, well, you use all this terminology, but does it fit in this area? Well, no, not really. And I see your point, but well, but you're a freaking physicist and went to school for it, and you not never thought about these tiny little idiosyncrasies in science or terminology. Well, not really. I don't see whether it has anything to do with it. Oh, but then when I brought it up to you, to them, I mean, and maybe to you, that all of a sudden it's like, well, I never thought of that. It just opened up a whole new realm of thinking. It is spiritual enlightenment. It is the awakening to the universe. There are these little subtle hints of things all around us. And some of these people are spouting off the wrong thing. Now, I cannot say with certainty that they're doing it on purpose. But what I can say with certainty is they're not correcting their mistakes. They're not coming out and go, oh, years ago we talked about space as a void. Well, that's not exactly true. When we said that, that nothing could exist out, that's not exactly true. No, no. But they have shown us the fact that they were wrong simply because of the science they are showing. So they're admitting they were wrong by not admitting it, by not saying it out loud. But they still keep using the same kinds of terminology and reading the science books and things like that. It's like they're not fixing the mistake they originally made. But you look at all the science books and there's all this stuff, simulated drawings by NASA, artist conception of Cassini, of the Zucchini mission. Check up on that, the Zucchini mission to Mars. Yeah, you'll find it very interesting. It's in Veggie Tales. If anybody got that reference. But anyway, crap, I've been talking about this for 42 minutes already. But all right, my friends, it's 4:09 in the morning. It's almost 4:20. So, get them ready. Light them if you got them. Marie's listening in. Mary, I meant perception or perspective. That's a very good point, Mary Wins. What is your perception of things? Your perception is affected by your perception. Wait, perspective. I got that wrong. Your perception is affected by your perspective. Now, when I took drafting with paper and pens and rulers and things, you had to draw an artist's perspective. Okay. So I had to sit back and say, okay, I had to try to understand the perception of what the people wanted me to do in this case, it was a school assignment. So I had to try to understand their perception of how they wanted me to draw the perspective. Well, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Well, if you're standing on a street corner and a bus goes by and you're listening to the radio, your perception is distorted from listening to the radio because of where your perspective is. Your perspective is your location. A bus went by. Your perspective is there's a lot of noise going around. Your perception is, I can't hear the song. Now, they almost coexist at the same time, which is a strange perception of the situation as a whole. I'll segue right back around. You watch. You pay attention, y'all. This old country boy here. Yeah, I'll bring you back around with that subject. But as a whole, it does have a lot to do with it. But what is your perception of it? So I perceive that right now there's nothing out my window. Okay, that's my perception. My I'm getting all I can think of is perception, perspective. My perspective is I'm sitting in this chair and this is how I'm perceiving it. I'm looking at it from this perspective, this point of view. So yeah, go ahead, laugh at me, truth of me. I'm laughing at myself. Going, was that perception or perspective? Oh crap! But um, perspective, perspective can also be looked at as from your point of view, where you are literally standing. So from an artist's point of view and trying to draw, a road that disappears in the distance, you're drawing a perspective. So the two lines run parallel and they disappear in the distance, and it makes it look like, then you put a car on it further down, and that's the projection of what you want it to look like. And your perception, did I just get them wrong? Did I just get this wrong again? I had to go back up here. Perspective, right. Perspective is where you're standing. So if I'm going to draw a picture of a landscape, it's from my perspective. But as an artist, I use my perception of visual through my eyes and my brain, and I control it through the choice of colors and my hand and through the brush. It's my perception of the landscape from my perspective, meaning my point of view. And people, a lot of times, get those two confused. So I perceive there are ghosts because I sense them. But it doesn't matter what my perspective is. In other words, where I'm sitting or where my position is. My perception of the universe is altered or changed by my going outside and looking up at the universe from my perspective, meaning where I'm standing looking up at the universe. So, Breaking Dawn and I are standing out in the yard the other night looking up at the stars, and she was standing just a foot or two to the left of me, and I was like, no, a little to your right. Even though we're both standing in the yard, we're both facing the same direction. My perspective was slightly different by 2 feet. So her perception of what I was trying to explain to her to see was changed because of her perspective, meaning her location. Twist this one around a time or two, and that'll create a vortex, and possibly even a black hole or a doorway to another dimension. But in understanding all these words, and yeah, I'm having fun with it and giggling and laughing, but wait, what is this? Truth to me, I'm sorry, I had to stop and excuse me for my momentary reading here. Truth to me, I think they may just not know how to change the cat because it got out of the bag. Ah, yes, absolutely. And which came first, the bag or the cat? chicken or the egg? Bad joke. Okay. Truth of me, you got it. Veggie Tales. Yep. I'm back for round 2 or 3. Who knows, Chloe? Hi, how are you? Marie says, yes, if I wake up early enough, I see them training. When the track's not used, it's an entertainment grounds. Live bands are playing today. That's interesting. Thank you. You're very welcome, Mary Wins. Reception is something. Is staticky. Okay. Truth of me says, I am laughing because you sound like me trying to explain things to my kiddo. Yep, I'm like that. Yep. That makes a ton of sense. I will have to remember how you said this. My kiddo and I just had a conversation about perception and perspective. Remember when you use the word perspective, think artist, perspective. And perception is more of a mental, understanding, emotional perspective. I'm sorry, perception. I got that wrong. Anyway, but you're a blast as well, you guys. And thank you for the topic. That's really a great one. I had another one that was very similar to that. Let's see, confirmation versus. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, Don says, okay, no, walk through the perception door and be in your better place so you can get a better perspective. How about that one? Yeah. Do I hear giggling somewhere? I'm not quite sure. That may be my perception of things from my perspective. There was something since or was confirmation versus something. Anyway, yeah, chuckling, chortling. Yes, I hear those Snickers out there. And if you got a candy bar, it's almost 4:20. Anyway, my friends, this has lasted a whole lot longer than I really thought it would. But we, earlier, the previous video to this evening, for those of you who weren't around, we had a really good time. But the idea, though, that, and I forgot where I was going, like with that. Oh, laughter. Laughter is the key. So energies and so forth, and our adrenaline and all our stuff goes better when we're laughing. It really is a cure-all for a lot of things. And depression and just getting yourself in. And truth to me, you're absolutely welcome. Mary Wins, always breaking dawn. Chloe, and Marie, if you're still out there, and you don't have to type. I know you're out there, girl. Was thinking pizza again. When I did, I was like, I wonder if Marie's had any pizza lately. But that's an inside joke for the two of us. But anyway. So, my friends, I do have 2 other videos scheduled. One is to discuss the trinity of thought and the mind. How about that one? And another one is about the distance, space, time, and what is it all relative? So those are going to be coming up, but it's 4:20 officially. So light them if you got them, Marie. I'm still here. That's 7:20 p.m. there. Well, hey, you can use our time zone for the moment. It's like, hey, it's 4:20 now. So, my friends, I do love you. I do. And I got a 4:20 waiting on me that I'm not going to do on camera. But Chloe, woo to all y'all out there. I do love you. And it's been great fun and great laughs, and it, to be able to pass that on in the universe as though nothing as though nothing were wrong in the whole picture, from my perspective to your perception. How about wrapping that one up? Jody, how about you came back on 1:20 a.m. there, eh? Um, daylight savings here, so sun hasn't set yet. Yeah, 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 yeah. But anyway, have fun with the words, but also, um, with this funness of it, like George Carlin used to always do, which in my opinion helped to make him hilarious, is that what is our perception of what's funny from our perspective. So George Carlin, see, I'm using these words again. From George Carlin's perspective, his perception of the world was different from his point of view, his perspective. So how about that for tying that up as a wrap up and a segue to the ending here? My friends, if it's 420 where you're at, it's 422 where I'm at. I love you all. I do. Keep smiling. Keep looking at things with a different point of view. Because it anytime they put this stuff on us and they try to make us believe one way or the other and convince us that they're right, we have to stop and go, wait a minute, that's their perception, and it's my perspective from my prospector, gold, to prospect something. So anyway, there are different ways to look at it, perception wise, from your own perception. But I'm just going around and around in circles. Y'all can tell what my tiny little brain does on a day off, right? Let's see. We are raising vibration. Absolutely. All my relations to all that felt like 5 minutes. Yeah. All right, friends. I love you all. I do. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will accept and receive the gifts, the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom from the universe. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you, your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, and all of your relations will continue to accept and receive the healings, the knowledge, and the wisdom and the blessings from the universe. I continue to pray that each and every one of you and all of your relations will continue to accept, receive, and share the healings, the knowledge, and the wisdom of the universe. And as an added bonus, I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to rebuke and refuse to accept any negative energies that may be in the universe, or any negative and entities that may try to attach themselves to you. As a spiritual protection, say it at least once a day. I refuse to accept, just like I choose to accept, refuse to accept any negative entities, any dark energies that may be sent your way. Reinforce it, say it out loud. And to the universe, Truth in Me said, I just had the same thought as you did. See, synchronicity, does it really work? Is it really here? Is it really, you guys prove it all the time. I am just a communicator and your friend and crazy person here in South Georgia, Mr. Hawkeye Two Feathers, also known as David Null. And I thank you. And for this 420, smoke of them if you got them. And remember, I talked about the nicotine earlier. Yeah. If not, check it out. I love you all. Take care. TTFN from South Georgia. Keep it between the ditches, my friends. And until next time, be calm, be compassionate, and be cool, baby.